Tonight, I don't know when Easter is, and so we're doing our Easter special now. I'm okay. So originally, it was because the first Omen came out the week after Easter, and we do the shows the week after the movie comes out. So then we push this back another week because of just reasons. And so, but we're talking about Immaculate and the First Omen, the Omen series, which I have recently enjoyed watching, quote unquote, all of, and just satanic horror in general. I'm your wicked game master, Connor Lloyd Crews. The Joey Chestnut of talking about movies, Edwin Gomez, has been possessed by a daemon, and he is being held. He's been rope tied up in Russell Crowe's house, and Russell Crowe is like, "Listen, that was a movie." I did
that shit.
I was like, I don't even have my Vespa anymore. And yeah, who else is with us?
What are you gonna do?
Hey guys, it's Brian. How are you?
And
hey everyone, I'm Scott. Good to see you.
And
I'm Paul.
This is nice too. This is the first time in I feel like a while where everybody here has seen both of the like headline movies that we're talking about, so we can, because usually it's like one person hasn't seen one of them, or you know, or it's Edwin and he's seen nothing ever.
None of them, yeah. But has a lot to say about all of them.
Yeah. Yes. I want to say thank you. I almost said congratulations, but thanks to Marina Sakamoto and her band Shenkin for the use of their song Curse in our opening. It's on the EP She Nods. And so in 161 days since the strike ended, the AMPTP still sucks. And let me change this background. I'm it's a little surprise for myself. I don't remember what I chose for Immaculate. Oh, I remember now. This is kind of a spoiler.
We're getting closer to next Easter by the time we got to this.
This is Wesker at the end of Resident Evil 5, which is kind of a spoiler for something the movie does late that I wish it had gone more whole hog on. But yeah, who wants to describe the plot of Immaculate? And do it, and whoever, you should do it in a way that's sets us up later to do the joke where whoever describes what happens in the first Omen just says the exact same thing.
Suspiria crossed with Rosemary's Baby.
Plus Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah.
Plus Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah.
Whereas, I think that covers it.
Yeah.
It's about a nun who gets knocked up.
Yeah. It's a lot like the movie Knocked Up in that way.
It is.
Pretty,
Only by the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. Well, that's a little bit of a spoiler for... But
I feel like that's in the title of the...
Yeah, that's true.
The title of the movie.
Yeah, it's about a nun who gets pregnant, and she's at a spooky nun house, whatever those are called. Abbey? Nunnery?
Convent?
Convent?
I think these are all words that could be used to describe a nun house. But I'm going to call it a nun house.
Nun house, yeah.
And we got to send her to the nun house. Huh. Yeah, we watched this. I think if it hadn't been for the fact that there was a bunch of satanic... There was another one that we cut from this for reasons we can maybe talk about later. But there was a lot of satanic just horror movies I noticed coming out on Easter, and that's something we had been doing for movie night. Maybe not always satanic, but at least like Christian horror themed. And but I also saw this because I had A-list, and I was going up to, me and Paul were both going up to City Walk to see Dune 2 on 70mm IMAX again. And we were like, well, we might as well just make a day of it and see Immaculate earlier, and then, you know, get something to eat in between. and that's what we did. And so it was.
I mean, that's half the movies I see on A-list. Is
Seeing before Dune 2.
Yeah, why not?
I actually went to the to one of the screenings with the opening night of it or whatever, and with the Q&A with Sydney Sweeney, which was interesting to see her talk about the film and how long, she had this filming process for like 10 years. It was something she tried out for or auditioned for that never made it, never got happened. Never got
she was like 12?
I don't know about that. I don't know how old is she? She's 20 something, right?
27, 28.
20, that's what I thought. Yeah.
So yeah, she probably would have been like 17. Yeah.
I mean, that's
10 years. Yeah,
that's same context. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, and she's playing high schoolers now. Anyways, she looks young. So yeah, I could see like, I could see her like auditioning for this 10 years ago. She would have been like on the younger end for like getting cast in this role. Like she would have obviously looked quite young.
Yeah.
But
I think what's built up in her career for the last couple of years, the last few years especially, it gave her that clout, because I think that's why she's a producer on it, because she teamed up with people she knew to make this happen.
Well, I
actually don't know the full story. Like I know, like she auditioned for it, didn't happen, and then she came back to it. But like, so did she read the script and she was just like, I remember that.
She was like, I want to make this. And in fact, like the director, Michael Mullen, he actually has worked with her before. So they went into this filmmaking with the relationship of that.
They did a sexy Rear Window ripoff called The Voyeurs.
The Voyeurs on Amazon.
And even you can tell the vibe, because I mean, he was saying that like it was her show. Like it was like she worked through things, and he sort of was definitely not that. Yeah, she produced it. So it was definitely not that dominant director vibe where it's like, we're going to tell you how to do things. It was let her do it. And I mean, he even said like, let her do her thing. And we just kind of knew it was her creative zone, but which is cool, because obviously like it became a passion project, and I give her that I'll give all that the credit. Somebody who gets into something and influence and inspired that early on. Yeah. Despite whatever connections she made happen, that's fucking dope, So I thought that was the coolest part for sure.
Yeah, good for her for producing. And I mean, it's a solid movie. There's nothing in it that's like embarrassing.
No, yeah, absolutely. It's one of the better films in this genre that's come out. Recently, especially
the way I described it. I thought Five Nights at Freddy's, last year's Five Nights at Freddy's, was baby's first horror. I would call this like young adults' first horror.
Yeah.
It feels like a movie that'll be watched at a lot of sleepovers.
Yeah. Now that you mention it, it does have like a very like YA feel.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like the other thing is too, I mean, and it makes sense coming from what her age is and what her inspiration in film was. Like, we're all sitting here because we've seen a lot of films. We've seen a lot of like where you're watching things like this going like, oh, I see where this came from or that came from. I mean, she straight up said at the Q&A that her biggest inspiration for this was Rosemary's Baby. And that's obviously a huge influence. For people like us, we're kind of like looking at it going like, oh, that's, I see that, I've done that. Yeah. But it's kind of cool for a generation of kids who maybe I've not seen.
I mean, I'm not that much older than her. Let's not act like I'm like 6 years older than her. So like,
yeah, but six years of film, it can still make a difference, right? Like as far as what we're input, that's what I'm just saying for like, more for people who are more like coming into it, because even back like you go at that age 18, and you crossed off Suspiria's, Rosemary, all these different ones.
I can see an executive, especially knowing, okay, it's Sydney Sweeney. Her star is on the rise. She's a new sex symbol, which she just is. Like, I don't really want to get into talking about her figure or anything because it's fucking weird.
It's a stupid conversation.
Other than like making fun of the weird way conservatives were like, her boobs have destroyed wokeness on SNL, which was pretty funny. That was a whole thing. She had She's a sex symbol, and she had a lot of low cut dresses on and outfits on SNL, and conservatives were like, her boobs have destroyed wokeness. And then when she ended up being in this the next month, they were like, they've already made her satanic in Hollywood because of, and it's like, that's not how the timeline of productions work, but
what does that mean though? That how did her boobs kill wokeness?
Because boobs are woke now. Butts, I guess, are.
Wait, so then what did they be promoting?
No. Oh, sorry, I misspoke. Boobs are anti-woke.
We need to get to the bottom of this.
But I think butts are woke. but boobs are not. Boobs are anti.
Okay.
I don't really know.
Okay, so essentially, like, if we were woke, we would be like, oh, we can't talk about that. Don't show that. She should cover herself up.
Yeah, like she'd be literally fully covered up completely.
Well, this is
in their brain, seeing cleavage.
But doesn't that seem more pure?
Video games. The video.
Yeah, but you're coming at this with fucking logic, man.
This is something that stems out of like a video game conversation going on right now, which is that all Western developed like video games have more realistic looking characters. And to be fair, I do feel like this last generation is at like an uncanny valley level where I thought the previous generation looked a little better because in terms of faces, just because there was a little less detail to it. And now there's like not quite enough detail, a little too much detail. And people are picking up on that as like Western game developers are trying to like make people think women are ugly or whatever, or like trying to destroy the beauty of the feminine form or whatever. And then there's also been recently a couple Japanese games where, you know, they're very typical Japanese style where it's very accentuated. They're very voluptuous, and people are just horny over Big Booba, and so when they see an American person, this, you know, blonde young woman presenting that, they're like, oh, this is a step in the right direction, a fight for a punch in the face of wokeness because women can be sexy again.
Boobs.
But
so
it's a really dumb convo.
Yeah, this whole last 10 minute convo.
You're into a lot of these, like...
Anyways, yeah.
Well, I wasn't.
So that's
to be
immaculate.
I'm talking about the conversation around it. I'm not talking. I'm not going to be.
Yeah.
I don't want to engage. I think
I hate giving it attention at all.
No, but I think it's worth. It's like funny because of how stupid it is. Almost like it is.
Yeah.
It is so stupid, and there was no way I wasn't going to make a joke about it because I've been thinking about that a lot because of just like seeing those like headlines about it where I was just like, what?
Yeah.
And but in terms
I think that's what it is. It's just like the biggest echo chamber imaginable.
Yeah.
I think that's, you're just like blasted by it.
But I would say for the movie itself, it doesn't really go anywhere or do anything explicitly unique. Like it kind of, I wish it had gone one of two ways. And I think we need to just throw on spoilers real quick before we go into this, and we can talk about. So we find out that she is pregnant from a DNA taken from a nail.
The nail.
Well, there's multiple. He had multiple nails.
Yeah, but it's. I'm just saying it's one of the nails.
Yeah,
you know, like that was.
It's not just a nail.
Well, I was gonna say, I guess I should say one of the nails that was used to hang up Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Yeah,
like there's those relics that, like, we don't really know if it's.
Are you saying that within the context of the movie there is doubt? Because I feel like the movie is not playing it nuanced enough. I feel like that is definitely one of the nails that Jesus was hung up by.
Oh, absolutely.
In the fiction of the film.
Absolutely. As far as they're concerned, it went to a test tube after it came out of his arm, right out of the cross into it, and they're ready for it all these years later.
I don't even know. I think it might have been just their. I don't know. Like, maybe it's just because, like, I wouldn't take them at face value that it's like some, and especially the because of the reveal that it wasn't really, you know, divine.
Yeah.
Like, it was.
Yeah.
All,
well, I think they certainly believed that it was.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, like, I don't know, how spoilery are we getting now? Like, what
I put up the spoiler tag.
Okay.
We could talk about
I gotta
anything.
say, like,
Oh yeah, what's the end game?
Well, like their plan doesn't quite make sense in a way that I don't like. We won't talk about First Omen yet, but like
the one thing we'll say before about the First Omen before we get there is that these movies are shockingly similar, and we will talk about that more when we talk about the First Omen.
But in this one, so the plan is like at first, just to explain the movie a little bit more. Sydney Sweeney is at this nunnery. She becomes pregnant, and so everyone just treats her as though it's an immaculate conception. And you find out that it was in fact not, that she was inseminated with I don't even know like the full science behind it, but it's part of the DNA.
They showed shots of a science lab, so that
I was just because like as I was speaking, I was occurring to me like I have no idea whose like semen it was. But I don't think they even get into that. But
not at all.
The DNA is part of the DNA is that of from the for us the nail, and essentially they assume that if she has a child, it'll be the second coming of Christ. And like just why that doesn't make like no, that's how clone works. It would just be a kid that looks like Jesus. Now they did mention like he'd have like holy blood flowing through him, but they didn't really quite say like what that means and like that he would have what he would have Jesus powers. They just it almost seemed like they just kind of wanted to see if they could do it.
Wait, are you telling me that super religious people don't just generally believe in something and don't go all the way in thought?
Like I'm not even talking about like real life. Just in a movie, they should have had. Just, I'm saying for a movie,
I agree.
It doesn't.
And the movie isn't propulsive enough. We'll talk about this on the next episode where we talk about Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies. But we just all saw the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie the other day, and like, what exactly is Green Goblin's plan in the second half? Like he just wants to team up with Spider-Man, which works in that movie because it's so propulsive and like everything is so character and connection based. And but in this, I think my two ways that I think you could elevate this movie from being just like fine is one, speaking of Raimi, would be to have like a young, hungry, weirder, wilder director, whether that, or even if it was Sydney as a producer, like wanting that, to imbue it with a lot of style, which would make the story, which is kind of like whatever, it would make it, instead of it being like this thing that's building and building, it's more of the base for all this stuff to happen. And that makes the story better, would make it, like The Evil Dead is a good example, my favorite movie. Like the story of The Evil Dead, like it's kind of like whatever, but it
cabin in the woods.
But what makes it great is that it serves so perfectly as a base for all these things, and this could have easily been that, if someone, a younger director, or again, Sweeney as a producer wanted to give it some sort of real like flair, but it's pretty like stately, for the most part.
More than anything, it shows that like Sydney Sweeney can carry a horror film. And like I hope she works with, like, just like you said, more ambitious directors, more like somebody who brings their own voice to whatever she does next,
and just more her experience, because I mean, like you said, she's got talent. I mean, that's Scream Queen quality at the end. I mean, legit is.
Yeah. I will say the ending was fun. Like by the time we got to like the.
So me and Paul we thought that the ending was we had been set up to that the ending was going to be like crazier than it was, and so we were both kind of like, when it happened.
Same.
But and then I think the other approach, and probably the approach you would take with something like this, and this is where this came into a spoiler thing, is I was really. Because again, I had heard that the third act got to some weird places. And so the second they're talking about cloning Jesus, I'm thinking of like Alien Resurrection, when they go into that room and find Ripley's 1 through 7, and there's like the other mutant Ripleys that are like, kill me. Like the idea of the third act, her going down into the catacombs, and there's all these like mutant Jesus clones down there.
That'd be dope. That would be dope.
That would have been like, again, some fucking Resident Evil shit. That would have been. That would
like they're kind of like some of them they're all alive, like in the tanks and shit.
Yeah.
Like they're kind of like they're all like, you know, you can see them moving and like.
Yeah,
they're all their errors and stuff like come through, not just laying there.
Yeah,
that'd be fucking rad, actually.
And then maybe there's one who's like a little in what they've been doing it a bunch, and they're trying to perfect it and get one that's less mutated. And maybe there is one that's like the least mutated, but it's still kind of weird. That is like outside and kind of helps. And
that's actually what they ended up using. So that's why like it kind of went off the rails with the child. It would have been a better like direction to it than just like the. What'll happen with this magical nail?
I haven't seen that. You know what I mean? Like that's an idea and like a direction that I haven't really like seen for something like this, and it would have been cool to go to. But yeah.
I think ultimately it knew what direction it wanted to go to, and that was Rosemary's Baby. It wanted to do that sort of an ending and wanted to do that sort of thing. And I think that's, if anything, that's what the third act really, that's when it kicked in for me as far as that comparison and influence really came in.
Well, I think that like with I know like people kind of, you know, sometimes reject this category, this quality of a successful horror movie and stuff, and I get it. It wasn't scary at all, you know. Like it failed as a genre movie, and you know, it's, I mean, as a drama, like fine, it didn't really, you know, meet sort of an expectations of a horror movie, but whatever. I like, not necessarily saying that I'm always scared personally by horror movies, but I want to feel that sort of a visceral kind of appeal to sort of that spookiness, the scariness, being disturbed, and this wasn't there. You know?
I remember there being like maybe one or two moments where she's like staring into the dark or something, and they didn't do a jump scare. I liked those in that regard, but I kind of agree. Not also, my favorite Sydney Sweeney movie of the year. I got to be honest.
But yeah, to be honest, because these two movies are so similar, sometimes I'm having a hard time remembering what is it.
Well,
like, was that in that one?
And I think, again, it harks back to the idea that we've seen a lot of the same stuff before, so it does kind of get lost in the details, I think. But I mean, I know I was next to somebody at that first screening who really wasn't very exposed to a ton of horror. She was freaking out the entire time. It was kind of wild to watch, where she was jumping and jumping. I feel like I'm dead inside when I go to these movies. I mean, I go to anything. I don't get that feeling of like scared, knuckle on my. I don't remember the last time I felt that. But you know, so for me, it's just sort of like thinking about what that would be like when I did feel that, and would I feel that kind of same thing? You know, and like again, it reminds me, well, being next to somebody who's not that exposed, really feeling it, which is dope. You know, for a newer generation. I don't mean to say that that's an excuse as far as like good, bad of a movie, but like. It is a good movie. If you take all the structures and you're like, these are really well done. It's just shit I've kind of seen before.
Yeah,
but
it was
to somebody else not, you know?
It was perfectly fine, perfectly acceptable. Right. Yeah. Totally. And I agree with you, Brian. Like, that's why, like I said, I think it's going to be a popular sleepover movie. And you know, like, I mean, you were talking about how like
at least for the next couple of years while Sydney Sweeney is sort of in the
especially considering how long Sydney Sweeney's like stars and like, because you know we were talking about how like, well, she's not that much younger than you, Connor, at 27. It was like, yeah, but I'd say her fan base is probably significantly
much younger.
Well, part of her fan base.
Yeah,
the healthy part of the fan base.
Yeah. So, but I also agree with Paul in that like. One, between these movies being so similar and having seen them like 2-3 weeks ago, like it's like nuns being weird and horny.
That's kind of how I thought, because I've not thought about it a lot, so I was kind of like you guys are all saying the same thing. I'm like, as we're going to talk about it, I'll remember, that's this one. But it's kind of lost on me these couple weeks too.
I don't have anything else to say about Immaculate.
Because
no, I will just
we'll get to the First Omen, but I think it's kind of it does the First Omen a little injustice, being like, oh, I'm confused between that one and
I would agree that First Omen's much better personally, but like they are similar enough that like just like individual scenes, I'm like, oh, that was in that one.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things in the First Omen that I don't think I've ever like. There's like one specific shot about midway through. I think we all know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That I don't think I've seen that in a movie.
Yeah.
No. And I do just want to say this before we wrap up Immaculate. The one thing I'll say is about that ending. If you're going to do that ending, this is me personally. I get if it worked for people. I just think of like, you're giving me these demon baby sounds. You show me some fucked up shit. Don't just like allude it to me anymore. Like, I don't want to see, obviously, if it's like an actual human baby, cute, but like maybe possessed, I don't want to see something bad happen in that scenario. But give me actual something to mirror what those sounds I'm hearing are, and then fucking go for it. Like, I just think about like the ending to the film The Tribe and how insane that is, and if that would apply that same logic into this. And I think that's just the stuff where I think about we've crossed these boxes before and would be so much more if you have that ambition to go a little further.
Denying us the money shot was cowardly.
I think it was. I don't think it was cowardly more than it was like, this is where this film is maxing out at.
Yeah,
and I really think so. You know, it wasn't like, oh, we're not going for it.
I think not showing the baby at the end is like the quote unquote elevated choice. And I think that's kind of compared.
I don't even think it's elevated.
Well, no.
I'm in more of a mainstream approach.
Nothing to gain from that.
I say quote unquote elevated in that it makes it less of a B movie and it leaves it to the imagination. You know, and like
it just fit with the theme of the whole thing. That vibe was there.
Which is interesting because the First Omen is definitely like a sleazier, grosser movie in certain ways, but it's all the better for it.
And one thing that both films share in common, which I'm very into, and I kind of want to see a lot more of, and I don't know if it's an actual real thing, but nuns like laying face down praying against the floor. I'm into that shit. It just looks like a great visual, and both of them have been using that. But I'm into that.
Well, let's do a brief overview. I mean, we'll see how brief it is. Oh, the Zoom thing is doing something weird of the Omen series. I gotta take a note real quick. Okay, let's run down because we're talking this. The First Omen is the sixth Omen, technically. So the actual First Omen from the 70s. Let's raise show of hands. Who's seen that one?
Okay. It's been a while, but I have seen it.
Yeah, I would say it's good.
It had been a while too.
I don't really understand its reputation, like compared to a lot of other 70s horror movies. I keep using the word stately. I said that earlier, but stately, that's the joke I said for this, where like, because stately means grand, impressive, but that's the denotation, the connotation of stately. I think at this point, like, it makes you think of something that's like 100 years old. And The Omen doesn't feel like a 70s movie in that way. It feels like feels more like a golden age of Hollywood movie, other than like a couple of the more graphic like moments, but everything else around that feels very old school.
Conceptually, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I think you could do so much.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. And I think the appeal is the thinking about what it could do versus what it actually does. Because it had been a while since I saw it, and I was like, oh,
it needs more baby Antichrist. I think that's like a big issue.
That's the thing. It felt so safe in between of like trying to do anything where you're like, this is your demon kid. Make him do some shit, not just, like. And I think that's, again, maybe the times with the 70s, it wasn't really there for that. The execution of the shots to make him do something cooler visually, but
that becomes,
everything in between moved so slow.
That becomes the issue with 2 and 3. I know we've all seen 3. Who's seen 2? Raise your hand. I've seen 2. aka Damien.
Because I did them all. I did 1, 2, and 3 before we did the first one.
Damien Omen 2. It did this thing. I do like this. I wish movies would bring this back, where it's like Rambo First Blood Part 2, where the title of the first is the subtitle of the second. I kind of like that. We kind of have it this year, I guess, with Furiosa. With like the Mad Max saga. I hope the name of the movie is just Furiosa. I hope that's not I
think it is. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
it might be, but I could see why they would put Mad Max in just because of.
Well, I think it's a great tagline to put on your posters, but I don't know what the actual film worked out.
But Damien
isn't in it, as far as we know.
Omen 2. Pretty boring. Got some good deaths though. And then the final
scores rule.
Yeah, the scores are great. The Jerry Goldsmith scores. Yeah, I wish Edwin was here to defend, because I know he probably loves these movies.
I mean, these films do not deserve what that score is and what some of those kills are. That's the only thing, and I think that's probably what Edwin loves about this stuff, is because like I mean, I was listening to my headphones watching these things, and I'm like, this film does not deserve this at all. And that's what I think wins it over for sure.
The third one about Sam Neill as the Antichrist, as grown-up Antichrist, was really, I think it's my least favorite out of every single one of them. It's the most not utilized correctly. I mean, you have Sam Neill as the goddamn devil, and what do? The two scenes where they let him go nuts and have like a long monologue and get to like kind of be sexy, like with a Jesus statue, like those are like the two good moments in the movie, and then everything else is like fucking boring.
I do wish, as great as Sam Neill was, and he was the best part of the Omen 3, I wish he went a little bit further.
I
wanted him to be a little campier.
Well, I wish he did anything.
A little bit. I wanted him to chew the scenery a little bit more, because for this type of movie, I think that's warranted. But
I mean, the only thing out of this that we got, and it's wild, and I think this is what's wild for me mostly, is that you're talking 1981, both of these, right? You have Sam Neill doing two fucking insane type satanic possession films. One is just insane, one of the greatest of all time, and that is Possession,
which influenced the first Omen.
Absolutely. And then you have what we saw in Omen 3, and it's just baffling to me.
I'm the only one here who has seen Omen 4, I believe. I'm going to read what I wrote on Letterboxd. We're going to watch it for a movie night later this year. Spoiler, I think Omen 4 The Awakening is my favorite Omen movie. Incredible schlock, total horseshit. Arguably one of the best films ever made. It actually gives us quality kid Antichrist stuff. It's paced at triple the speed of the other Omens. It has some, considering its TV movie, largely goreless yet very fun, clever deaths. Posits healing crystal aunts as heroes, which I agree with, by the way. Features Major Briggs and iconic character actor Michael Lerner, who was also in Barton Fink this year, a role which earned him an Oscar nom, and includes such barn burner scenes as snakes going nuts at a weirdo church, a Rottweiler pushing a kid out of the way of an oncoming truck, and an entire carnival of psychics and esoterics freaking out. And I amended, and this is the part that I've been thinking about this every single day since I watched this movie. There's a part where, so like, it's a little girl this time. And this was before people knew to call something like that woke.
I was like, so some more woke nonsense.
Yeah. And it was just fun. It was fun that it was a little girl this time, and she has like way more to do in this than like Damien does in the first Omen, maybe even the first two Omens combined. And there's like a thing where like the dad is in politics, obviously, and she's shown an interest, and there's a part where she's like drawing what he describes to the mom as like, hey, look, Delia drew the founding fathers as family trees, and shows a picture, and it flashes by really quick. And if I had been not watching this by myself, I would have missed it. But I went back, and what she has drawn are not family trees. They are physical trees with the faces of the men who are the founding fathers in them, like Bill Murray in the Get Smart movie, where he's just like poking his head out the tree the whole time.
Oh wow.
And it's really funny. it makes me laugh every like day thinking about that moment. Like, look at the family trees. It's just a bunch of like weird man-faced trees, like the fucking Great Deku tree in Zelda. But yeah. And then who here has seen the Omen remake? Which that's what this is behind me.
I have seen the Omen.
One of the
remake.
Creepy cutaway
I'm glad
images.
I didn't watch it.
They cut
yes, this scene I love that like shot where he's like dropping the baby.
Yeah,
I remember that like specifically.
It is not as shitty as I would have thought. Considering I think the original is only just good, and considering that, again, the original feels like a golden age of Hollywood, and this feels like prime late 90s to mid 2000s like studio schlock. And I gotta be honest, that's more my speed personally. So I think I kind of like the remake a little bit better than the original Omen, because it's the exact same story. There's like really no change ups in the beats or anything. It's just like a vibe. And I can totally see if someone, I don't know. I know that, like, I also kind of wished I could have this conversation with Daniel and Josh, who I know did not care for this, according to their Letterboxd reviews. But they seem to be just, like, being like, oh, well, it's the same thing again. And I'm like, yeah, but it's also, like, super mid-2000s.
And also was, like, the old one just so amazing that, like, it's just unforgivable to repeat it. I don't know. I get it. Honestly, I think I also had more fun watching the remake, just because I think it, like, visually, I think it went a little bit further.
Yeah,
I think it was a little more disturbing in some ways.
Yeah, one of the big,
it was great, but like
the big, I would say, addition that it does is it has all these like dream images that characters see, like in transitional stuff, and that stuff is like definitely the best part of it, but it's like effective. It's like fucking weird. Like, again, it's this little penguin guy, and this is probably the least weird of the stuff, but it like cuts to him for like half a second, and then it cuts back and he's like holding a baby upside down and dropping it, but let's move on. Let's talk about a movie we've all seen, starring this man behind me.
Bill Nighy.
Bill Nighy, the actor guy. Who wants to explain the first Omen?
You go.
Brian, what was your combination for Immaculate?
Suspiria crossed with Rosemary's Baby.
Okay, so the first Omen is Suspiria crossed with Rosemary's Baby minus Sydney Sweeney. P distinction. But
yeah, there's
which of course makes it more woke because the boobs are smaller.
Yeah. Yes, 100%. Yes, there is a Sydney Sweeney shaped hole in this film.
Is there?
And it's also like more influenced. I would say this is a little more influenced by some like even like weirder of the sort of older stuff. Like there's a scene that's clearly a pull from Possession, which we mentioned earlier. Yeah, I mean it's pretty good. Like it's not.
I liked our lead. I thought she was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked her a lot.
Yeah, the difference. One of the big differences here, and we'll wait a second before we get into spoilers exactly, but the lead is not pregnant, and instead it's a very similar plot where it's this American Catholic woman, pre-nun, whatever that is. She's studying.
It's on your last. Yeah, this is your last.
She's majoring in pre-nun.
Yeah. I think it's like when doctors, they go to the hospital and do like the rotations before they become. I think that's what it is.
She's an intern.
It's like a Christian rotation. Yeah, exactly.
An intern.
She was a fuck. What is it called?
You don't get full benefits yet.
Well, you know that's because your mom, right?
My mom was a nun.
No shit. Oh wow.
Yeah. My mom was a nun,
and then she stepped out, and Paul was born.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah.
Sorry, that's
logic.
I was wondering the story myself.
I'm now glad to know that now. Yeah.
No, she left. She didn't leave because anyway.
No, I was joking. It's a longer.
She just needed some, some meat.
Yeah. It's your mom. I'm not going to continue that.
No, but thread. Anyway, I'm trying to think of the name this specifically because it is a thing where somebody's like a pre-nun studying to become a novice.
A novice? Okay.
Novice, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
And then so you still have to like commit to it and stuff like that. And then
but it has a kind of similar where she comes to this place she's never been to, gets involved with this convent, but instead of her getting pregnant, it's more about this like troubled girl who is there, and she's trying to figure out what's going on with her. Right? Who knows? And yeah, I mean it's I would say my like. I don't know. I would have to like rewatch it to like fine tune this criticism, but there's something about it where like the plot feels a little glued together. I will say it feels a little like hastily assembled, like like in terms of making it like a full movie. But there's some like weird, wet, and wild stuff in here that's definitely worth it. Talking about Immaculate, there's like one specific scene, and we'll wait till we get to spoilers here in a second. Involving a hand that like
fucking rad.
Yeah, really good. Definitely the best. That and like the last act were the best stuff in the movie. Yeah. It was really cooking.
I will say that the other highlight though, Ralph Ineson. I mean, just to see him do anything, I'm happy. I mean, obviously you guys know I'm obsessed with The Witch, and I love everything about him in that. But anytime, like he was in Chernobyl, and he's been in a bunch of different things, but seeing him in this just was like, I'm happy. I'm happy this guy's here.
Do we have any First Omen things we want to say before putting spoilers up?
I liked it a lot.
Looked good. I mean, I really liked the look of it. The atmosphere felt good. Some really like actual good, thought out shots. The DP, I don't know what the DP's worked on otherwise. Off the top of my head, I have to look at that, but I thought it looked good.
Yeah. Spoilers. So spoilers. Well, two spoilers. The obvious one is these are evil church people, and they're trying to breed the Antichrist, aka basically kind of matching up with the original, like the opening of the original film. The second spoiler, because a lot of the movie kind of leads you to believe that this girl that the main character is trying to protect, that the girl is the one who they're trying to get pregnant with the Antichrist. And we find out towards the end, well, actually they're trying to do it with a lot of people, and one of those people is with her, the main character. And in the third act, she goes through like an accelerated pregnancy. The big thing we've been alluding to is she gets a vision towards the middle of like this woman who's I feel like the woman giving birth is actually happening potentially.
Yeah.
But she sees, instead of like a baby coming out of the birth canal of the pussy, she sees like a long like demon hand extend,
like a claw.
Yeah. And it's like, what the fuck? That's how I feel.
So good.
That's how they get you. Guys, you know what I'm talking about, fellas? That's how they lock you down.
Yeah.
It do be like that.
No,
it do be like that sometimes.
Come and grab you.
No, yeah.
Oh, take my wife, please. But
we saw it at the Vista, and during that scene, I just stood up and said, "Fellas, am I right?" And the whole theater just burst out in applause.
But yeah, I mean, that moment is great. I also really loved when the scenes, I don't know a more pleasant way to put this, but in the demon rape stuff, where this jackal who's kind of alluded to, they have this fucking super creepy like cloth mask they put over the women. That's like fucking weird, and definitely like plays into, because like religion in general, Christianity and Catholicism definitely not being exempt from this, definitely uses its power and wields its mystical influence to control women's bodies, everyone's bodies, but especially women's. And there's something, that's what the movie's kind of about, and there's something very like that feels, with like the weird mask they're wearing, it feels like a good like logical, it's both spooky, but you also think about like, okay, well, they probably would have like a weird dumb ceremonial garb, because they're all fucking Catholics.
They're like the subsector of these weird Catholics. I think that's and this is what I talked to you about, Connor, right after we saw both of these. Like the only thing is, there's so much weird shit you can go to with Catholicism, Christianity in general. Start doing more of that, and I think that would make me happier with some of these satanic movies that we see. Like, I don't know, I feel like some of it becomes almost tropey in what we kind of keep seeing.
Like, even this, it wasn't as like clean as Immaculate, which is
it looked better. I thought it felt more like the creepy. And by the way, the DP was his name was it's Aaron Morton. He actually did work on some Black Mirror episodes. He did the Evil Dead remake, the 2013 Evil Dead. Okay. Some of the Lord of the Rings episodes. Yeah, and he's upcoming one now is coming out this week. He did Abigail.
Okay.
So he's got a horror vibe for sure.
Yeah.
I was saying, even in this, they could have gone further.
Yeah.
I think it's more with your plot devices than your actual pieces of, like, 'cause you're just pulling from the same, just stockpile Christian garb, and like there's so many weird things you can go to. That's what I like is when you start like going.
They're definitely, they're both very similar. They're like Immaculate and First Omen. I mean, I think we all agree that if you're gonna watch one of these movies, watch the First Omen, because they're very similar. They're like the same length, basically. They're both like 90 minutes or whatever. I think the First Omen's a little longer. It might be closer to 2 hours, to be honest. But still, these days, you're lucky to get a movie less than 8 hours. Come on, Scorsese. And there's a lot of things that are more thought out. Like we were talking about Immaculate, where it's like, what's the plan? And here, it's maybe kind of a stupid plan, but like we know
it makes sense. Yeah, it follows.
Yeah.
It makes sense in a narrative horror sense. Like we understand where they're coming from, what they're trying to do, why they're trying to do it.
Have we put up spoilers yet?
Yeah, we've been in that.
The main character, what was her name? Like,
not Sydney Sweeney.
No, Margaret. Margaret is
Margaret. Yeah.
It's Nell Tiger Free is her name.
Yeah,
I'm probably saying that terribly wrong, but
she gets knocked up by the devil, which would have been a good name for the movie too.
Yeah, dude, totally. That's like one on Shudder, like Late Night of the Devil.
Yeah,
like knocked up by the devil.
Yeah,
come Thursday to Shudder.
Yeah,
but
the reveal is that basically, because you kind of know from the first Omen that it's like a thing born of a quote unquote jackal, and so we see this like demon towards the end a little bit vaguely in a nice, I thought it was like done very tastefully and good for like the budget and stuff. And
the actual elevated way, the not quote unquote. In a way that, like, you know, was classy but still like gave you enough of it that I felt satisfied seeing that demon burning towards the end. And we find out that it's basically the demon has to, in order to create the Antichrist, this jackal has to, or whatever the fuck, has to mate with one of its own offspring. And so they've been trying to breed offspring to then mate with it to make the Antichrist, and we think, which is again shockingly similar to what's going on with Immaculate, we like find out towards the middle that like the girl, the troubled girl at the convent, is one of these babies that survived and grew up. And even this movie gives us more like mutated weird baby stuff, where we see all those pictures of like the gross mutant babies.
This gave us a lot just because of that, and having what's her name, was this what was the little girl's name? I forget her name in the film.
Bebo.
Yeah, because it just gave her like another element of the creepiness. Yeah, I'm fine with that. It just gave I was like, dude, I don't give a fuck. You know what I'm talking about. Because it was good to have that character to work off. Like, I would have wanted more of the team up of those two. Like, do some weird devil shit together, guys. Like, that would have been more fun to me.
Yeah. Well, it seems to be kind of setting up a little bit of a like the Devil Sisters at the end.
Totally. That's what I'm into.
Yeah. At the end, we find out that there are 2 kids born unto her, twins, a boy who becomes Damien in the original 3 Omen films. There's even a little
that was I got to be honest, that was cheesy as fuck. Like it just felt so fucking cheesy. Like it was like almost like trying to do like Rogue One to Star Wars or some shit, but it was like, but it was so dumb. Like it just felt, and even the fact that they used that priest from like the in the trailer, the voiceover, it felt so artificial when it actually hit in the film. Like, you know, you don't have to fear or whatever. Like it felt so weird.
I feel like I kind of knew this was coming, and so like it didn't really bother me. But
you gotta do something to connect the dots, obviously.
But the main girl, the troubled girl, and the main girl's new baby daughter, Antichrist girl, I assume. The only reason she's not the Antichrist, see, Omen 4 was more woke. Omen 4 was like, yeah, girls can be the Antichrist, whatever. And in this movie, they're like, no.
I don't know. That sounds sort of like, oh, we'll burn them like the witches.
Yeah.
It just gives them more excuse to be.
No, for sure. I'm being stupid, but it sets up like a Devil Sisters sequel that honestly could be fun.
I'm so into.
I'd be down for
like almost like a Ginger Snaps for this, you know, a bigger, more mainstream Ginger Snaps. Which, if you've not seen that, is a really fun vampire-y cool thing. But I would love to see that Devil Sister team up shit.
But yeah, that's the first Omen. Anyone else got anything to say about the first Omen?
I will say, like, towards the end of the movie, when there's a great scene when Margaret's debating killing who will be Damien, like the baby.
Yeah.
And she can't quite lead herself to it. But I just kind of chuckled. I just wanted to be like, oh, don't worry, Margaret. It turns out he's actually quite ineffective as an Antichrist. Like all he really does is just kind of like kill people in goofy, spooky manners, and then becomes like an 80s.
He stares at you aggressively, and you explode.
His final like ascent is being an 80s Don Draper who runs for president. He's fine. It's not nearly as bad as it sounds.
He just hits and accomplishes Wall Street, guys.
Yeah,
he does it. The devil is just in Wall Street. Wow.
Let's broaden out briefly I don't have a lot to say, to be totally honest, about other things, but I did want to give us a little bit of a space. I don't know why my fucking thing is doing that. Talk about other more satanic / Christian horror. What's interesting is I love cults and a lot of trappings that go along with this subgenre, but I usually like it at its best when it's a little more pagan-y than explicitly Christian. The Wicker Man is probably my favorite.
Midsommar, Hereditary, those are fun to do, all those, ceremonial type of things. Like, that's what I'm into, like the weird, like, lore factor. And again, that's the thing that you can do when you start adding Christianity to it. Sky's the limit with that. Go nuts. And that's where I want to see more creative and ambitious things.
I think the difference is that, like, I don't, even though I was raised in the church, I do not believe in any way, not saying that any of us do. I think we're all lapsed Christians, probably.
I was raised Catholic until I realized this is kind of silly, and then I have the perspective of it from this time, and it's but I always like to say I'm an agnostic atheist, and you do you. I wish I believed in some shit like that, and I still always will say, if Jesus shows up in my house tonight, just says take my hand and we're gonna go see some shit, I may believe. But until that happens, this is kind of where I am. But you do you.
Well, I know, Scott, you're a practicing Mormon.
Yes. So, that's why I wanted to be careful with that subject,
But
let me tell you, when Mormon horror finally cracks the mainstream, that is going to be some shit that you guys are not prepared for. Right?
But honestly, we're getting that in real life with what's her name, that influencer chick who just got arrested for like child endangerment, all the weird cult things. It's happening,
I missed that one.
What kind of underwear are you wearing?
Ruby Frankie, by the way, that's the thing. Ruby Frankie. If you don't know about it, it's a wild story, and that is actual real life Mormon horror.
That's a clip from the Mormon horror movie. I think my favorite, the one movie that I thought about when thinking about like satanic / Christian themed horror stuff, is Exorcist 3, which fucking rips. Movie's great. I mean, the original Exorcist also, but like boring. Everybody's seen the original Exorcist.
Everyone knows that one.
Yeah. I don't need to shout
just
out.
Whatever.
Well, you guys, I know, Paul, you have some opinions, but you're in the middle of that Chipotle bowl.
I'm eating Chipotle, but I was trying to think of like satanic horror movies that I saw that I really like, and ones that I really need to revisit. And it was a really cool one I remember from it was The Devil Rides Out with Christopher Lee, and apparently written by Richard Matheson. That was just really it felt like something really unique for the time. Then again, this was long before I lived, so I don't really know, but it had really cool sequences where they had like the pentagram and trying to summon like a portal or something. I have to revisit it before I talk about it too much.
I know, but not to cut you off, you're kind of winding up on it. I was just reminded of a movie that I wish is one of those movies I don't think we're ever going to get to see the full original cut. It's the best movie from this director. And it's a movie I wish I could see, but Event Horizon, which is basically hell in space. And all of those sequences when it cuts to like them in like the hell dimension or whatever the fuck is going on in that movie.
No, they're fucking visceral, those things. Yeah. Those scenes.
And I've been watching through some of the Hellraiser movies, which like a lot of slashers, which the first Hellraiser isn't really a slasher, but as a franchise it kind of becomes a slasher franchise. They're like kind of anti-scary or like there's something about slashers that are so stupid that they're like the opposite of scary. They feel
it's the camp that just gets that's organically added into all of it, just sprinkled in when you're like, here's my character.
I've said this before. I think I've said this on Cinema Curse before, but I do think at the end of my life in hospice in 15 years, I'm going to be laid up, and on the television, it's going to be a loop of superhero films and slasher movies. And that's my comfort. That's my zone of like where I like to just kind of exist in terms of things that don't really, you know, and we'll cut the superhero movies and the slasher movies that are good from it. It's not any of the good ones. Get out of here, James Gunn. Get out of here. Like the first entry of all of these series. We're only watching the shitty sequels and fucking Black Widow in here, bitch. So but yeah.
What was the one that was out? The Spider Woman one?
Madam Web. Madam Web. Yeah, we're gonna watch that in a couple of weeks for movie night. Because I gotta revisit it because it's weird. It's clearly, obviously the worst movie I've seen this year, but at the same time, I think I'd still like it more than most other movies I've seen this year. I mean, clearly, there's 3 big movies this year that have come out that I've really liked, and Dune obviously is one of them. Civil War, which we'll talk about in a future episode, and The People's Joker. But you know, Madam Web's up there for me. I gotta be honest this year so far because it's uniquely shitty. But anyways, We're not talking about Madam's Web's Madam. Anybody got some satanic horror thoughts? Favorite ones?
I mean, outside of the ones we've talked about already with Suspiria, Rosemary's Baby. I love Prince of Darkness. I mean, John Carpenter going through like Apocalypse trilogy with just all of his vibes and clearly how much like Catholic, because it was Catholic school he went to, right?
I think so.
It was some sort of super religious upbringing, and I know that just terrified the shit out of him, and that basically is the reason he makes fucking weird horror movies, and we love him for it.
Yeah, Prince of Darkness is so cool in the way that it like kind of. I think I also really like. I think this is what I like about Event Horizon in a way. Is that I don't believe in. I'm pretty hardcore atheist when it comes to the supernatural, but if I were to believe in stuff, I have a very Twin Peaksy understanding of the supernatural, and that it's all kind of one thing, and essentially we're just looking at a bunch of different ways to understand it. And I like what Prince of Darkness does with kind of science fictioning the like demon antichrist stuff.
Absolutely.
which is pretty cool. But I think it's about time.
It's game time, baby.
Play Connor's Wicked Games, sponsored by Chris Isaac. Every week, like Jigsaw. Was that?
I was just gonna say, I think I just read something about him being problematic. I don't know if it was from the past or recently.
No.
I just read something about him the other day in passing.
I don't want to cancel everyone.
I know Chris Isaac might be next on the woke list, you know?
He's sponsoring this segment, so let's not speak ill of him for now.
What if it was like the literal worst thing in the entire? I mean, I know it's not. We would have known, but like, the little worst thing, and we're like praising.
He's Joseph Goebbels. No, I mean, honestly, if he got canceled, it would only make the joke that I say it's sponsored by him every week funnier.
And it must be something from super long time ago, because it must have been. I watch a lot of those weird top 10 countdowns on YouTube, and and they all kind of become one thing. But it must have been some, because all the recent news is nothingness. So, anyways.
But like Jigsaw, every week I like to play a little game. This week, the name of the beast. The devil is real. He appears to me in my dreams, and he's been depicted in a lot of films with a lot of different names. I'm going to give y'all the name of a devil, antichrist, or some other type of Satan from a film, or in one case, a TV show. You got to guess where that Satan is from. We'll go in order. Everyone will get a chance to guess. And basically, I'll say the name of the Satan. You guys will all get a chance to guess, assuming you guys all don't make the same guess and get it right, I'll give you guys 3 options and you'll get another chance to guess. If you get it right the first time and then stick with your answer, you get 2 points. If you get it right the second time, you get 1 point. Let's see. Yep. So we're going to start with Paul. You get to go first on this first one. What movie is this Satan from? Damien Thorne.
Damien Thorne? Is that from The Omen?
Scott?
I'm also going to go with The Omen.
And Brian?
Yeah, The Omen.
Yes. I always give an easy one to start. Let's see. Let me give everyone 2 points. I should have just written this down before we did the show because everyone was going to get that one. All right. Scott?
That would have been, that's embarrassing. Like,
yeah.
Literally, somebody was like, yeah, that's like Exorcist, guys, for sure.
Scott, where's this Satan from? Black Phillip.
Oh.
You did that. You did that on purpose as well, I think.
Yeah.
As far as
just hearing Brian's, that would be the Vitch.
Yeah.
That is our wonderful, wonderful Satan.
I agree. This is the Vitch.
Yes.
Yep. Black Phillip is indeed from the Vivitch. Brian, what movie is this Satan from? Or TV? It could be a TV show. You won't know until you get the options. Anti-God. Or anti-God.
That's like you're giving me. That's the name of what this person.
That's the name of
the name of the show.
That's like the name of the devil.
That's the name of the devil.
No, I get that, and then it leaves there. Are you giving me options, or I have to just guess?
Make a guess, and then everyone will get a chance to guess, and then you'll get options if you're not certain.
I do not know.
Paul?
I have no idea.
Scott?
Is it Mission Impossible 3?
It is not.
Okay.
I will give these options. We'll start with you, Brian. Is Anti-God from the Omega Code, Exorcist 2, The Heretic, or Prince of Darkness?
What was the first one?
The Omega Code. A real movie.
You know what? It's funny because I like my brain wants to not do it, but just because we just talked about it, but I want to darkness.
Paul?
You know what? I'll go with Prince of Darkness.
Scott?
Yeah, I'll go with that one too.
Everyone's tied because it is indeed Prince of Darkness. Yep, they call
as soon as I heard that, my brain started kind of questioning if it was real or not.
Yeah, that's what they call the big like tube of green goo in the basement. Totally, is Anti-God.
Yeah. I was just trying to think of a physical image, and I was like, dude, that sounds more like a type.
Exorcist 2 didn't sound right, and I don't know what the fuck the first one was.
For the record, it was also what they called the doodad they were trying to find in Mission Impossible 3.
Oh, okay.
I knew that wasn't what it was, but I just...
You know what? I'm going to give you 0.1 of a point there, Scott, for that one.
I was actually in my head thinking 0.5. I was going to be a little bit more generous. I was like, that's a half a point right there.
These are my wicked games. Paul, Louis Cypher. Where is Louis? Where's that Satan from? Louis Cypher.
Ghostbusters.
Louis Cypher.
Can you see the clever wordplay they've done there?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What do I know? I don't know.
Scott?
Reaper?
Brian?
I'm not have to hear the options because I'm kind of on the fence of a couple things.
Here are your options. And Paul, it goes back to you. Angel Heart, the Devil's Advocate, or Ghost Rider?
Cypher. See, I want to think it's Devil's Advocate. What was the first one?
Angel Heart.
I don't know what the fuck that is.
It's a good norm kind of spooky movie with Bobby De Niro and who's the Potato Man from Iron Man 2? Mickey Rourke. Sorry, Mickey Rourke.
Yeah.
Go with that, whatever the fuck that one is.
Scott.
I'm going with the Devil's Advocate.
Brian.
It is Angel Heart. That's what I was one of the ones on my fence on. It is definitely Angel Heart.
They are correct. That is from Angel Heart.
Because it wouldn't make, I wouldn't think, because it's Cypher. Yeah. There's no ciphers in Devil's Advocate. That's not part of the whole plot.
No.
Scott,
we just saw the trailer for that the other night, didn't we? Didn't they show that before?
That was before, the First Omen.
That was like a funny trailer to watch in like 35. It's maniac shit.
Scott, how about this one? I got to be honest. I think I've said this before. Sometimes I write.
I think it's Brian's turn now. I got.
No, it is your turn.
No, it's your turn.
Okay,
you're starting next.
It is your turn.
I sometimes write these questions for specific people that I'm hoping are going to be here, and I will definitely say this is 100% one pitched at Edwin. So, but this Satan is just called simply the Man.
Yeah. I'm glad that's not my first. Not that I have an answer.
No,
the man.
I have no idea.
Brian?
I mean, the context on that, I have no idea.
Paul, any guesses?
I'm thinking of a Pulp Fiction thing, or like some like thing that's not even that. But
I don't know.
Here are your options, Scott. End of Days, Ghost Rider, or The Toxic Avenger Part 3, The Last Temptation of Toxie.
I'm going to go with Toxic Avenger.
Brian?
As well. Oh.
Yeah. Go for that.
Paul?
Toxic Avenger.
The Man is what they call the devil in End of Days. So sorry.
Got it wrong.
Sowie. Brian. Mr. Frost. I gotta look up more information about.
I think isn't that the title of the fucking the movie?
I don't know.
I think that's the title of the movie.
You think the title of the movie is Mr. Frost?
Yes.
I think there is a Mr. Frost movie, but it doesn't have anything to do with the devil. Wait, isn't that with am I mixing it up?
I think that's what I'm doing. That's my answer either way.
I can't say anything.
That's my answer either way.
Paul?
Mr. Frost. I don't know.
Passing?
I'm passing.
Scott?
I do not know where this Satan is from.
I'm going to also guess Mr. Frost just in case I get some of those points.
All right. Brian, your options are Meet Mr. Lucifer, Mr. Boogedy, or Mr. Frost. I'm assuming you're sticking with Mr. Frost.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with my,
And Paul, I assume, Scott,
are you...
Okay.
I'm also sticking.
Okay. Yes, it is indeed Mr. Frost. There is a movie called Mr. Frost.
It's an old movie. Like it's from like the 80s, 90s, early. I remember like watching random shit like that back then.
Jeff Goldblum.
Am I right?
As
1990. Was it Satan?
1990. Yeah, I do remember this. Like I just the poster stuck out in my head when you said that character name. I was like,
Paul. John Milton
Well, John Milton wrote Paradise Lost. I'm just gonna go with as we went before the Devil's Advocate.
Scott?
What's the name again?
John Milton.
I think that is the Devil's Advocate. Yeah, yeah.
Brian?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with that. Yeah, I'll go with that too. Sounds right.
3 for 3. That is indeed the name of Al Pacino's character in The Devil's Advocate.
Such a maniac. But I love that. I kind of want to watch that film.
Yeah. I think we are going to for a movie night later this year.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
We're definitely going to. Scott, Mr. Sims. Mr. Sims. SIMMS.
I don't know.
Pass.
Pass. Yeah.
Brian.
I don't know.
Paul.
I don't know. I might get it when the multiple choice is around.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
Scott, is it from Little Nicky, Tales from the Hood, or the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus?
I'm gonna
that would
say
be fucking dope.
Miss Tales from the Hood.
Brian?
That's where I'm going to, yeah.
Paul?
I'm gonna echo their guesses.
It's a point from everyone. That's Tales from the Hood. Some of these like non-guesses I'm including are because they also do. There is a devil. There is apparently a Satan in the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, but I wouldn't know. Next up, I believe we're starting with Brian this time.
Isn't Paul? Didn't I just go?
No, I
thought.
Oh, okay.
We're going to him fast and furious.
I guess so.
I don't even remember. So I'm just going to say we're going to start with you.
Yeah, I'll take the next one.
Jerry Belvedere.
From the show Mr. Belvedere, must be. I can't think of it.
Paul?
I don't know.
Scott?
What was the name again?
Jerry Belvedere.
I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to pass.
All right, Brian, this is the television show one. So these are all 3 television shows. Is this from Reaper, Supernatural, or Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
I'm just gonna go with Buffy the Vampire Slayer because I just know. I don't know. I think that's it.
Paul?
I'll go with what was the second one?
Supernatural.
I'll do that.
Scott?
Supernatural is going to be my guess.
It's Reaper. This is Jerry Belvedere.
Oh, that was okay. Yeah.
Is the name that Ray Wise, maybe my favorite.
Yeah.
If people haven't seen Reaper, it's worth checking out. It was a 2-season TV show. It was a comedy. It was the pilot episode is directed by Kevin Smith to give you like an impression of the vibe and stuff. But it's kind of like that meets like a Buffy thing where it's these like slackers who have to hunt demons, and their boss is Ray Wise playing the devil.
That's pretty great. I mean, is it one of those that sounds better on paper than it actually is, or it's really, really that good?
It's pretty fun. I mean, the big issue the big issue, it's not like great, but like the good episodes, like the half of the episodes that are really good are very, very good. And it's not like there's like 2 seasons, like 25 episodes. The biggest issue is that it got canceled on like a cliffhanger. So
I think that maybe is why I didn't see it, because it's one of those that once I find out that they get canceled, I'm not going to even bother. That's why TV shows honestly the last thing I ever go to.
All right, Paul. Barney Satin.
Barney Satin?
Yep.
I know what they're doing with the last name. I can imagine.
Oh yes, I got that.
Yes,
much.
I'm just trying to think what that's from.
I do not know.
Scott?
Barney Satin?
Yeah, I will say we're in the last like 4 that are like the really hard ones. I gotta be honest.
Then I have no idea. I have no idea.
I would give credit like if somebody just knows that. I would be like, dude, I have no idea.
Pass. All right,
yeah, I have no
Paul.
Idea.
Is Barney Satin from Winter's Tale, Bedazzled, or The Devil and Max Devlin?
I'll go with Bedazzled.
Scott?
I'm gonna go with The Devil and whatever.
Yeah, that's honestly that's the one that I can think of the most. Yeah, just whatever that is.
Paul, congratulations, you're wrong. The other 2 are right. It is indeed The Devil and Max Devlin, which stars Max Devlin as a shady Elliot Gould is Max Devlin, a shady landlord who then buddies up to one of Satan's biggest helpers, Barney Satin, played by everyone's favorite, America's dad, Bill Cosby.
Oh shit, that's a good casting for him.
Yeah,
right?
It's good casting.
Like everybody in Hollywood was like, "We're literally fucking telling you he's the devil, guys," and like no one caught on the whole time.
Scott, Harry O. Tophet.
I don't think I've heard that.
What?
Those things in my life, those sounds have never hit my ears.
Harry O. Tophet. Tophet.
Yeah. Whale Rider 3. I don't know.
Brian.
Cannibal Holocaust, I guess.
Paul.
I don't know.
All right, is this from Petey Wheatstraw, Oh God, You Devil, or The Adventures of Mark Twain? Scott.
And it was, what was the name again?
Harry O. Tophet.
I'm going to go with Oh God, You Devil.
Brian?
I only want to say it because we watched it, and I'm now going to eat my words, I think, if I say it. But I actually, when you said Petey Wheatstraw, my ears remembered some shit, and I think it might be from that.
Paul?
Yeah, I watched Petey Wheatstraw, and I don't remember that name. And
it's just funny on the list. It's one we did see
from Adventures of Mark Twain. And I don't think they were like. I don't think they had like a separate name for that. So I'm gonna go with that middle one that Scott said, whatever it's called.
Oh God, You Devil.
God, You Devil.
That is correct. Oh God, You Devil, the third in the Oh God series, following Oh God and Oh God Book 2, which stars comedian George Burns as God.
As God,
and
yeah.
Then the third,
I remember. Oh shit, yeah.
In the third one, he also stars as the devil. And I got to be honest, Oh God, You Devil is like top tier movie name. That's such a good. It's such a good movie name.
Didn't realize there was. I thought that was the sequel. I've seen Oh God, and actually I've seen Oh God, You Devil. I didn't realize there was like book 2.
Yeah, there's a middle
between
one.
Those.
All right, I believe this one we're starting with you, Paul. Apollon Mitrovanovich Satanev. Apollon Mitrovanovich Satanev.
Well, I'm gonna guess. I don't know.
You passing?
I'm passing.
Scott?
I'm passing.
Brian?
Weekend at Bernie's 2.
Paul, is it from one of these 3 famous movies with a Satan? Karunamayuda, Charade or Rhapsodia Satanica?
So this entire question is just gibberish, is what we're doing with this question.
I'm gonna go with A.
Paul, Scott,
Rhapsodio Satanica.
Brian.
Yeah, I'll go with that one. But I will say this is, if you said all those words in combination together, that's you speaking in tongues. That's what this question is.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's kind of, we've never spoken this aloud, but Connor's Wicked Games, while being games, are also kind of an outlet for me to say funny words and say funny things about movies that I found out. Okay. And this is one of them.
See what one it is.
And you guys all got it wrong. It was the one you didn't pick. It was Charade.
Charade.
All right, last one, Scott. Angel Cane.
I don't know. Pass.
Brian?
Yeah, I don't know.
Paul?
What is it?
Angel Cane.
I had no idea the devil appeared in so many movies.
Yeah, like honestly, in different forms and shit. Like
there are two listicles on, I don't know if listicle is the right word, but on Wikipedia that I used. Films about the Antichrist and the devil in film for a lot of this.
Gotcha.
Okay.
All right, what are the options here?
Yeah.
All right, so it goes to Scott. Angel Cane is from Rock and Roll Nightmare, The Butchers, or Holocaust 2000.
What are the three options? Not Holocaust 2000. So what are the first two?
Rock and Roll Nightmare or The Butchers.
I'll go with The Butchers.
Brian?
Wait, what is the name?
Angel Cane.
The Butchers.
Man.
Yeah.
That Holocaust 2000, though, that's just wild. I have no idea that even exists as a movie. Is that a real movie?
Yeah, no, these are all real movies. These are all. I'll say this. Every single movie or TV show I've mentioned is A, real thing that exists, and B, something that, I mean, there might have been one or two that were like stretches, but they do all feature a Satan. Most of these Satans are just called like Lucifer or the devil.
Sure.
And so, but I pulled from that same list where I pulled the interesting named ones, I also pulled a bunch of movies that also featured the devil. And this is like these are all like super B movies, obviously.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is like that section of the aisle where you're like, yeah, I've crossed over horror too much. I've gone.
Yeah, worst of the worst.
Yeah, you're just like, no, I'm good. I'm tapped out of this stuff now. I mean, it's just weird enough that I'm going to say, yeah, go Holocaust 2000.
Paul?
I can't believe that exists.
I think I remember Rock and Roll Nightmare from an episode of Best of the Worst, Regular Media. Angel Cane sounds somewhat familiar, so I'm going to go with that.
Brian is correct, and you squeaked out a gold on that last question. This was one of the closest, absolute closest ones.
Yeah, that's what I was almost if I didn't win, I was going to suggest a Final Jeopardy land where we could all, because it was that close.
Yeah, Holocaust 2000 starring Kirk Douglas.
No way. What year is this from?
A real movie from 1977 horror film. It's like an Italian trashy movie.
I must have been buried.
Which includes, a devil, a Satan named Angel Cane. But yeah, Brian gold, Scott silver, Paul bronze. But really close. I mean, the scores here: Brian 13, Scott 12.1, Paul 11. So, like, maybe one of the absolute closest.
Yeah, it definitely was the closest
ones we've had.
It's all nonsense.
Yeah, that's true. It is all nonsense.
It does help with the option of the multiple choice, because when it got to some of those deep ones, I'm like, dude, I'm just gonna say words.
Yeah.
So to have a nice follow up to reconcile it is good.
But anything else? I want to say let's get a motherfucking ceasefire. up in here. I was going to recommend 2 recent, especially because we're the guys. I mean, Dustin also, but Dustin hasn't been as present this last year or so. We're the fellas doing the Monday night movie night, and 2 recent, one that kind of fits our theme that I was going to shout out is Rawhead Rex, which we watched.
Boy.
Clive Barker, not as good as Hellraiser It Ain't. But and then also maybe my favorite like new thing we've watched this year, I would have to like double check, but Bratz, which was something else.
Bratz does belong in this conversation of Satanic movies.
But you guys got anything else? I have some other movies. I want to talk more about The People's Joker in a couple of weeks when we're talking about new movies. But if Brian, if you want to talk about it, obviously, I'm super down.
No, we wait on
that. Speaking of movies, I just read the book. It was called Hits, Flops, and Other Lies. It's a memoir by Edward Zwick.
Nice.
Edward Zwick is best known. I don't know what he's best known for, but I mean, like Born on the 4th of July,
Glory,
Gender Fire, Glory. Yeah, not Born on the 4th of July. Yeah, Glory. That was fucking. I was what I'm thinking.
I know he did a movie called Pawn Sacrifice that we saw at AFI with Tobey Maguire as Bobby Fischer.
Mm-hmm. Not very good.
He's probably like his bigger claim to fame was probably television. He co-created 30-something back in like the late 80s. It's a really interesting book about his career and like sort of a no holds barred to how difficult it is to make movies and difficult to work with actors. With one notable exception, and that is when you're making a Tom Cruise movie. Then you've got all the money and all the resources in the world, and the studio just wants to help you out as much as possible. But other than that, it is very difficult. And so, yeah, if you're just, he's an interesting director because, like, you'd think he's not quite a journeyman director, because it's all been a bit like he's written everything he's directed, but like he's not quite in the same level as like Scorsese or whatever, which he's actually kind of happy with, like it sounds like. But yeah, it's a real interesting look at the way Hollywood used to be, because like he talks about how like it's gotten a lot harder to make movies. So yeah, if you're into that sort of thing, it's a good book. I'd check it out. I'd recommend it.
Sweet. Well, I want to say next episode in 2 weeks, we are going to be talking, because there's been a re-release of them in theaters that me and Scott and Brian, I know, are seeing. And I think it's going to be one of our more densely populated episodes, because there's a lot of people who don't watch new movies but know these movies. But we're going to be talking about Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy in 2 weeks. In 4 weeks, we're going to be talking at the next Twin Peaks Club, talking about episodes 12 through 16. In between that, we're going to be talking about some new movies, including Civil War and Love Lies Bleeding and Challengers, which will be out by then. And yeah, I want to say thanks to Brian here for composing our outro. We are at CinemaCurse666 on Instagram and TikTok, where the video I posted today of us talking about the old man from the first episode of season 2 of Twin Peaks did really well on TikTok. It hit the algorithm in the right way, I guess. Nice. And did surprisingly well. Like and subscribe, smash that like button, share with your local. I think I've already said before that you should share this with your local priest. Share it with your local nun. Go to the nunnery, find the sickliest nun in the nunnery, in the nun house, and say, hey, check this out. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for joining, and thanks everyone who's watching for watching.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.